magic. Hello, everybody. 6 a.m. in the morning, and I know it's 6 a.m. because my podcast partner is gobbling down his fresh bowl of Fruity Pebbles. It's I, your neighborhood-friendly coach, trainer, and promoter, Zack Primetime Reeb, and I'm joined alongside, as always, my podcast partner, and I love to say it, 7-foot wrecking ball, Paul Isadora. What's up, big pal?
Well, I was pondering about changing my name on there to Tall Paul or Tall Isadora or something like that. I was having a conversation with somebody at work, and somebody was like, "Hey, you're tall. Can you get that off the top shelf for me?" And the guy goes, "How many times do you hear that?" And I said, "Oh, at least once every day." And people always ask me how tall I am, and always ask me if I play basketball and things like that. And he's like, "Does that get annoying?" And I was like, I'm just used to it by now. You're tall, get it off the top shelf. And I was like, what I am going to start doing is I'm going to start asking people to get stuff off the bottom shelf for me. And I'm going to just be 100% straight faced about it. I'm like, "Hey, can you get that off the bottom shelf? I can't reach it." Just flip the script on somebody. So, and I don't know. I mean, is that something that is that okay to ask someone, hey, you're tall, can you get that off the top shelf? There's a lot of people that are, driving the little shopping cart around, right? They're driving the little thing, and they ask you, "Hey, can you grab me that case of water," or something like that? And you're thinking to yourself, like, what are you going to do when you get out to your car? If you can't lift this case of water to put it into your shopping cart, what's going to happen when you get out to your car? You're going to, flag somebody down and go, "Hey, can you put that into my trunk?" And then what happens when you get home? How are you going to get it out of your car and into your house? I think about all these. What's that?
Taxpayers' assistance. That young kid that pushes it out. It's I believe the last Boomtown show, I walked out. We were there early, and I walked out to the ring trailer, and you're taller than the fucking ring trailer. Like, right. It's enclosed. It's a nice trailer, but it's meant to just store and get your stuff to where it needs to go. And I saw you in there with your legs as wide as the fucking trailer, hunched over. And I said, "Hey, get out of there." I told the promoter, I said, "Get out of there. And hey, one of you get in there and take this over." And it's the same time we were at the show in Sparks at the school, and I saw Larry in there. 60-plus-year-old Larry was in there. But the difference is, Larry, no matter if he's got abs or not, he gets out of the trailer and he's stuck in the position at his age that he was in there doing the stuff. When he got out for about, I don't know, a minute and a half to 2 minutes, his body was stuck in the position that he was in the trailer. So it's like, young guys, grab it. And no, you should not change your name to Tall Paul, because it'll look very weird when it says Tall Paul down there in that corner, and I'm calling you Big Paul, because I'm not going to change. I'm not even going to call you by your government name. Sustainable Steve. I think that's what it should say down there. Sustainable Steve. I wanted to talk about a few things today. We got training today. Ugly's coming down. I'm pretty sure Oliver John's coming down too. I missed his call yesterday, but I know he was talking about getting down here. And I've been working on some stuff. But one thing I wanted to talk about real quick was, so I'm talking to Arsonist last night, and his son, Red Hot Ramon Corzine. I didn't want to call him Corzine because I made that mistake many a times. But this kid's been training since he was 13, right? Religiously. And we had there was something that went on last night, and now he's 16, going to be going on 17 this year, I believe in November. And I thought about, I wanted to do a promo at the end of Limelight, which we never got to. And I wanted to tell the story of his uncle, Don Stockton, not wanting to wrestle him and at Prospects. And we never got the chance to do the promo, right? And then the match happened. And it's something that I was watching. These two went out there, and it wasn't a normal wrestling match. It was two individuals getting a story over. Like, after their entrances to the ring, they told a story that was better than I mean, the promo could have been cool if we would have added it week to week and people would have been following it, but it wasn't needed in reality, because these two told an amazing story. And I remember when it was over, he got it at 16. Like, he told his dad, he said, that's what I want to do out there. Fuck pro wrestling, right? And not in a negative way, but fuck pro wrestling. Like, I know how to pro wrestle at this young age, but at 16, you not only went out there and understood in less than 5 minutes how to tell a very emotional story of a nephew and an uncle not wanting to fight each other, but you wanted the match. And then you guys told a really good story in less than 5 minutes. And then you, at 16 years of age, now understand storytelling. And that's 3 years of training and having it drilled in his head. But I just wanted to talk about, we always talk about, we need the promo, right? Everybody stands in front, like right here, I'm in my comfortable living room, and this is big time. I'll see you tomorrow in Winchestertonville, Iowa, if that makes sense. I'll see you in Winchestertonville, Iowa, at the Boys and Girls Club, and this is what's happening. It's the most important thing going on in the world. And it's like, no, you can cut all the promos you want, and that's great if you can tell the story, build the video, but tell me what you think about when two people, tag team, 4 people, whatever, referee, they can go out there and convey the story to the audience right there. Nothing else. Fresh audience. Go out there cold and tell us an emotional story like that we understand.
Right. Well, I mean, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about Maple and Boyce at the Carson City show. You're telling a story of a guy that thinks he can beat anyone, and a woman of all people coming out of the curtain, and him being very against it, right? I'm not going to fight a girl. Like, you don't belong in the ring with me. Like, telling this story about that, right? Based on equality. We've talked about this just on the the Royal Rumble, or the events that have of women's version and a men's version, right? How like, it's getting oversaturated with those type of things, and then you have this match that's exactly like that, where it's like, I don't want to put my hands on you, and you're conveying the idea, like, hey, if I do put my hands on you, it is going to be bad news for you, right? It's a woman getting punched in the face by a man, in theory, immediately puts her down, right? So trying to tell that story, and just the slow build up from here's your opportunity to get out of this match. You probably don't really want this, because if we do have a match, I'm just going to beat you easily, and then slowly building that, like, that she wants to be in that situation, right? She's going to step up and she's going to do this match, and him throughout the match still trying to talk her out of being in the match, and almost getting to that point where it's just like, you asked for this, as he's getting offense, and then you get to that, the point where now he's overconfident, like, showboating a bit, and then there's her opportunity where she gets a little bit of offense, and just the story that's been told that, he's just pushing her around and he's overestimating her and all this different stuff. That in turn gets the crowd into it and behind her and things like that. Like, and we talked about it before, we're listening to the crowd and they're chanting her name, but the way that the chants sound is you can tell that it's a lot of young girls in the audience, and they're relating to her like, hey, if she can do this, I can do this. And you're thinking, oh, there's going to be this big uptick in little girls at the show. And then in turn, there's going to be an uptick in girls that want to train to be pro wrestlers because they go, if Maple can do this, then I can do this, right? If she can compete with men, then I can as well. It's telling that story of equality, right? You always think about when you're a kid and your parents are telling you you can do anything you put your mind to, that there is no limit to that, right? So in your story of Ramon against Don Stockton, it's like, Don is so much bigger than him and plays this role of setting an example in the pro wrestling business. And and I haven't seen the match, but I just I can just imagine the story that's being told. It's like, hey, you're too small. Like, you don't want this. You don't want this smoke, right? And Ramon being like, yes, I do. I'm ready. I can just, in my head, I can just think about this story and how it could be told. And the way that you're describing it, I'm seeing like it's going down exactly that way.
Well, it was a refusal of, I'm not going to wrestle. I'm not doing, like, it was very passionate. I'm not doing this. And he kept trying to go out of the ring and he kept pulling him back in. And then he would strike him and then Don would shove him across the ring. It happened a couple times. And then Don finally caught him with that uppercut. And then he grabbed him and he just had him like hugging him because he does that big Stockton slam, that big belly to belly, which in this case, that one was really big, way up into the lights, but he had him and he didn't lock his hands yet. And he's over here just talking to him like an uncle would be like, come on, man. And then he finally just looks around and clasps his hands together and hits one big, and Ramon just sells the shit out of this. And Don throws him up over his shoulder, pulls and carries him off. And I was just like, wow. I'm like, that was really good. And in the platform they're on, they understood the platform. You can put 75 people in this building. We might have 55, 60 tonight. And we're just trying to move these things along. We're trying to get the experience the right way of these young guys. I thought it was really cool because, a lot of these guys, 7, 8 of these guys made their debuts January 1st, and here we are a month and a half into the new year, and they've already had 4 matches within the company. You know what I mean? 4 matches. I mean, I remember when I debuted, and there wasn't a lot of places to go, but you're traveling all over. But and you're only getting like a match a month, maybe. A lot of practice matches at the facility or outside in your yard or whatever. But one thing I wanted to talk about was the way we're and I always go back to you, how you convey what you're looking for in a match to the people working for you. And everybody translates it into moves, right? And it's like the other day when I was telling the Unwanted about the match with the Gator Boys, I said, start out with the smaller guy. Bigger guy comes in, has a good quick little run, tags back out to the smaller guy. Bigger guy's fresh, hasn't taken no damage. Little guy comes in, he gets cut off. Keep him in the ring. Build the tag to the big guy. Big guy comes in, steamrolls everybody because he's the freshest guy in the ring. And the little guy comes back in, and that's where the finish happens. And that's how you talk about a wrestling match. You're like, we'll put the little guy get up some shine, tag in the big guy. He shines for a minute, tags back out his partner, cut off the little guy, cut off the smaller guy, put the heat, build the tag, big guy comes in, steamrolls, go to the finish. And you explain it to people like that. And I'm telling you the story I want right there, right? Little guy, get big guy in, double steamroll. But people just don't understand that. They're like, well, what body part am I working? And we don't need to know that. So I want you to elaborate, because I've heard you, I've put you over for talking about this a lot. And we get on the show and you never really like emotionally get into this and elaborate, because you're big on it, man. I talk to you about it all the time, but we never get it on this program. Tell me what it's like. What are you trying to convey to this young talent about the story you're trying to get them to tell on your show?
Well, I think it's I don't know, like I guess in my mind I feel like it's simplistic, and it's what pro wrestling is. And I've said in the past, like a lot of times you're telling someone what you're looking for in what they're bringing to your show, and they're trying to, just kind of like how you say, they're talking about what the moves are, and you have to kind of maybe over explain, right? You break it down real, kind of like how you're talking about, like, hey, this is the visual that I'm looking for. I want the little guy to get the better of the other team and tag his partner in, and get the big guy in there, just so you get a little taste of like, hey, if the big guy's in there, he's going to be causing some havoc, right? The same type of thing where we were trying to tell in the tag match in Carson City, right? You're trying not to let the big guy into the ring. Like, that's the story that you guys as the heels are trying to tell, is like, hey, if that big guy gets in here, he's gonna beat us up, right? So whatever we can do to keep the big guy out of the ring for as long as possible, that's what we want to happen, right? So that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about, you're conveying the actual story, the visual of what you want to see. You're not concerned about, hey, hit these big moves or whatever. So I think that's what I'm trying to convey when I'm talking to guys about what I want in a match, and you can go back to, Boyce and Maple, and, and I guess in some senses, you're wanting a certain thing, but you also want the people to buy into it and understand what you're asking them for. And I just remember having that conversation with Boyce and going, hey, this is what I'm looking for, right? And him going, yeah, I get it. I understand exactly what you're talking about. It makes sense, because, you think about that, like from a young age, you're taught as a man, you're not to put your hands on a woman, right? It is an unfair advantage that you have as a male, bigger, stronger, mature, pain threshold. You think about all these different things that you have an advantage in. And then I'm telling Boyce, like, that's the story that I want to tell, right? I want you to tell this story that, you're going to easily beat her, right? And you're trying to tell her that story by basically saying, hey, here's your opportunity to walk out of here, and you need to think this over, because if you really want to fight me, it is not going to go good for you. And trying to tell that story of, I do want to fight you, I do think I could beat you, all these different things, and just putting it on the kind of the male versus female, like getting that point across and telling the story that I'm dominant just because I'm a male, right? And understanding that that's not really the story in all cases, right? You could have somebody that's a badass like Maple. You think about athletic background, size, strength, all these different things. depending on what you do as a living, what you do as, what you grew up doing, like you think about, you talk about people being farm strong or country strong or things like that. It's like people that have never been in a weight room in their life, but you're just like, how is this person so damn strong, right? They pick you up and handle you like a baby. You think about a Brock Lesnar type person, obviously also has spent a lot of time in the gym, but just throwing bales of hay and things like that, just the things that you do, to help your family survive on a farm or something along those lines, like just this manual labor that you're doing, that it's not weight room strength, it's just farm strength, country strength, stuff like that. So you think about, you can take those things into account to help tell that story. So I don't know. I think in so many cases we try to talk to people about what the story that we're looking to tell is, and in our minds it's a very simplistic thing, because that's what pro wrestling is. It's storytelling. It's not about the moves, and we try to get that across as much as we can. But it seems like it's an uphill battle sometimes, where you're going, hey, this is what I'm looking for story wise. And just trying to go break it down. We've had this conversation before. It's like, you think you lay something out pretty clearly, and then they go out there and they give you something that wasn't what you're asking for. So, how much effort, how much explanation do we need to put into talking to people about what you want when you're talking about the match setup?
Which would mean they're not ready. And that's okay. That's okay, guys. If guys and girls, if you're not ready, you're not ready. That's why there's coaches. I told someone, I was talking last night to some, and I said, hey, when you do something good, you're not going to come back to the curtain, and I'm not going to be like, oh man, fucking, what'd you think? You're almost going to get less from me, because I'm like, well, it was good. You want me to suck your dick? Pull it out. I'll suck your dick. But I'm here to tell you what you didn't do well, or what you could have done better in a situation, because that's why I'm coaching. That's if somebody does great, you know what I mean? If the basketball team or the baseball team dominates somebody, you remind them of, we got to stay focused like this, and the teams could get tougher. But you don't take them in the locker room with, everybody run lines across the court. Now we're going to practice even. No, go have a good night. Get some rest. Go out, do whatever, but be prepared and get your rest, because we got another one coming up. And when you look at that show, the fans went crazy that show, right? In Carson City, Ugly was on here and he said something, but you got to think about the tone that you set. You talked about stories, which that show was heavily story driven, right? Here comes Illumide to tell him where he's been. Here comes Sergio. It gets JP involved in being in a figure. Here comes Jeff, title on the line. No, primetime hits the ring. Here comes Paul. I'm the boss. You're not the boss. Main event set up. We didn't even give him any wrestling. We gave him this unbelievable characters and story to start the show, and now they know the main event, so they're prepped for it. We gave them the Boyce LeGrand Maple story. We gave them the Caden, the Carson City, Kid Carson from Carson City and Caden from Carson City with that finish. And it wasn't any particular move. I mean, in the main event, the two things that got over was, you did something to Sergio did something to you, and you smacked him in the chest from the outside before you got in. I did the whole tag me in thing, and I got tagged in. Those things got the pops. Caden throwing the fit, then apologizing afterwards when he got upset, and understanding the instruction of where he was going. Maple selling for Boyce. So it's a show that's heavily story driven, right? And that's what I try to do, because at the end of the day, you could say, hey, we're putting on a pro wrestling show. That's cool. Nothing against that. That's good for talent if you're trying. I do it too. But why put on a pro wrestling show? Why just put on a pro wrestling show? Let's establish these characters. That's one thing I was talking about. I'm so excited about this event coming up, where you might look at this event. People online might look at Last Man Standing and go, I see 3 shot in the dark matches and a title match and then the Rumble. Like, but that Rumble, it's going to be every 2 minutes. That's going to be a 1 hour Rumble. Like, I want the card to be 1 hour. You know what I mean? I want everything to evolve around this shot in the dark chain that we got. West Coast, what's up, brother? And the title, and then I want to hit an intermission. I want an hour into this thing, and then I want to tell all these stories in this Rumble, and I want to make everything about April 4th at our biggest event of the year back in that building, and what around the title. We can tell the stories. You can tell if you have a 1 hour Rumble that people, that's what they show up for. You've been to Last Man Standing. We always talk about me and you, that story we told put almost 1,000 people in that building in that little town, which it was a big part of. But that was Last Man Standing. There was also the 30-man Rumble that for 25, 26 years, these fans have been coming out. This is the 25th annual Rumble. There's been 24, 25 previous winners to this thing. This thing has branded itself. So you always have to look at the story. We want to tell the damn story. And that's what I thought was really cool about your show. And that's one thing me and you had talked about, was taking it from just a fucking wrestling show with 4 matches, intermission, 2 matches, maybe throw a 7th on there, to let's get the heel. Let's establish who the heels and the babies are in this company. And then once we do that, we're going to be able to find a couple conflicts between these 2 characters. And you've done that. You've done that really well. And that's why the attendance has spiked, besides the hard work. Not because somebody went on Instagram and put a picture, you know what I mean? And this ain't taking shots at anybody. It's just absolutely insane to me and ludicrous that there's people out there, and I've had them before too, that think that one individual is the reason that anybody is running a business. It's like, who are you, fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin? Because you could give him credit for that, but without The Rock, without Vince McMahon, and even Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson, Dude Love, without these other people in the team, not one person can do all this on their own, man. So you talked about the story we're trying to tell these guys. In that last show in Carson City, I was like, man, this was a really good show. It was probably the best show since I've come down there. And it was just so story driven, even with the action that went on. There was a story told in the ring. There was a story told after a match. There was a story told at the start of the show that told all the characters and where they've been, what they're doing. And then we finished with a story and brought them to where we're going not next Saturday on the 28th in Boomtown, you know?
Right. Yeah. I want to talk to you about this. Obviously, you know, we're going into WrestleMania season. You got everybody putting their graphic together, and, you know, I'll be in Las Vegas, available for bookings, all this different stuff with all your contact information on it. The question that I have for you is, how long do you go, right? If you reach out to someone and say, hey, man, interested in booking you, like, how long should that process take for these young guys? If somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, looking to book you, what do you feel like time frame? How long you need to get back to this promoter in this amount of time? You know, what do you feel like is the time frame that's on that? How quickly, you know, like, I always think about like job interviews, and that's kind of the way that I look at this, right? You're offering someone a job, and how quickly should they get back to you? I always think about that. It's like, you know, you had a job interview, somebody says, hey, I'll get back to you. and how long should that process take? I think about it in terms of, you're reaching out to people for sponsorship type stuff. Hey, I've got an opportunity to offer you that is going to help your business. In this case, your business is you as a pro wrestler marketing yourself. You are your own business. But I think about that, like you're reaching out to somebody and going, hey, I've got an opportunity for you to grow your business or grow your brand. This is what I'm thinking about. Like, how long should that take for someone to either, and in my mind, this is something that's a pet peeve of mine. It's like, if you're running a business, regardless if someone offers you an opportunity that you're interested in or not interested in, you should get back to that person fairly quickly and go either, no, I'm not interested. So, you're at least going, hey, I saw your message. I got your voicemail, whatever it is. I got that and I'm acknowledging it. And right now isn't the time that I'm interested in taking advantage of it, or I'm never going to be interested or whatever. Or, hey, appreciate the opportunity. I'd like to do that. Let's arrange it. Like, how quickly should that communication happen?
Immediately. Like you're you know what I mean? Like you know immediately if you want to date a girl. You know immediately if you're attracted or you want to have sex with that person. And that goes on both ends right there. I think wrestling is different because at a job you do have to put in an application. You have to wait, drug test, interview, you got to do all these things, get them on the payroll, send it, but in wrestling excuse me, it's like accepting the bookings. I don't think you're going to get booked at WrestleMania weekend by putting up now accepting bookings, because nowhere in my career, I think the only thing I ever asked for, the only booking I ever asked for in my entire career was Mac was running I think Johnny LaRocca was booking it, and they were doing the fucking Cow Palace. And I hit Mac up because they were like pretty deep into the Rumble contestants. And I wasn't even on the card. And I was like, hey, bro, are you going to put me on this thing or what? I really want to do it. Like Roland Alexander, man, like he would want me to do it too, and that was it. But other than that, it's like they should know who you are. They shouldn't know who you are because of a little promo you put up or something like that. They should know who you are because of word of mouth, because of talent from going around and working. It's a business where you make connections. You have to show up. So you showing up down there, I would show up down there in Vegas if I wanted to work. I mean, shit, it's a social media era, right? Like we're friends with all these people, like Maserati down there in Las Vegas. I know Maserati. I've had her on my show. We don't talk every day. We barely talk, but if we do, it's a great conversation, and we respect each other. But we're not everyday talkers on the phone. Maya World, I just seen her at WCWF because she came with her boyfriend, Vin Parker. And she looked at me and came in the locker room and was like, what's up, Zach? And then she's like, hey, where's the bathroom at in this place, Zach? You know what I mean? So we still have that cool connection, even though we don't talk every day or barely ever. So for these kids nowadays, I don't think you need to make a graphic. I think that's more of a thing so they have content or something to post and get their likes and comments and stuff like that. But show up down there, because wrestling's a show up thing, man. You know that. I know that. All these guys know that. That's when you, especially in this business, when you show up at a show and Zack Reeb shows up at an Ugly Dojo or RWF or wherever, and he's got 5 extra guys with him, and you're like, whoa, look at that big guy. Look at that. Who's this? They're here for you, man. They're all here. They want work. They're here at your disposal to do with what you want. And for me, as the promoter, it's not about you can't use this guy. It's about looking at him and going, hey, how about you? This guy's 6'7", with a ripped 8-pack and a super athlete. He looks better than everybody on your card. Use him wisely. Don't bury this guy. Because I seen that with like Alex Ace. Love Alex Ace, but from the second I first saw that guy, right? And did I answer your question, or am I off on a rant now?
No, you said immediately. I think that's exactly what it should be. It should be, hey, I'm interested in using you on this show. It should be an immediate either yes or no. And I think it's like, and I don't know, obviously this is something that happens on your show posters as well. Like for me, it's kind of the same thing. Like maybe we're giving too much information. Like, here's my Instagram, here's my email address, and here's my telephone number. And if you're not going to be monitoring all of those things simultaneously every day, then don't use all of those things as a way to get in contact with you. Like I know you put your telephone number on your posters, right? So it's the way for you to call someone up and say, hey, I'm interested in coming to your show. Can you bring me, 10 tickets or whatever? Hey, can you sell me 10 tickets? My telephone number's on there. But if you've got a bunch of different ways to contact you, make sure, especially, we're talking about you using yourself as a business. And this is something like that I've dealt with recently. It's like, somebody's got an Instagram up there. They got their email address. They got their telephone number. It's like, should I need to reach out to all three of those things in order to get a response? Or should you be taking account of all of those different things? Like if you're using Instagram as a marketing tool, you should be checking that on a daily basis. If you're using Facebook as a marketing tool, you should be checking that on a daily basis. It's a thing to me that I'm blown away by. It's like, oh, hey, you contacted me on Facebook Messenger, and I don't check this very often. It's like, well, why not? Is this not a way that you have used as a way to contact you? Why do you have this avenue if you're not using it to promote yourself or get yourself more work? So you definitely answered the question, but continue on your chat about, like, I'm interested in, like, I was just going to kind of intervene about, like, if you're in WrestleMania weekend, the things you should be doing. You're talking about just showing up. And I was like, yeah, show up to a show, be helpful. That's the things that we're talking about, is get yourself out there, get seen, show people like, hey, it's not just about getting on your show. It's about showing you the type of person that I am. I'm the guy that you can trust, right? I'm going to be there early. I'm going to help set up your show. I'm going to do whatever you need. We've talked about that for 125 episodes, being needed, right? Like I talk about that in basketball all the time. It's like, you just need to be that person that they can't not have on their team. Be important, be irreplaceable.
Change my mind. We can talk about all those other things. Josh Edlow came on here and said, you want more money, show me why you're different and all this stuff. But it really is just like, change my mind. Make me say yes. I'm looking for someone to make me say yes. I'm looking for someone not to message me. I just had someone message me and go, hey, man, I ain't really talked to him in a while. We're buddies, but he's like, need an extra body for that Rumble? And I'm like, no, I got it. But it's like, change my mind. Change my mind. People cancel all the time. I already had cancellations, big cancellations. I had two guys that I was going to use as major surprises, and there's cancellations, which makes where I'm going a lot easier, but make me change my mind. Just because I tell you no, I don't need anybody. That's a week. That's 2 weeks away. Show the fuck up. You showing up, you being on time, you doing this stuff is going to make me change my mind. I told all my young students, like, I'm talking to them after 4 matches about, on this branded show that we do here, about little things I want to start slowly doing to to add to what they're doing. And they're like, oh, wow, that sounds great. And I'm like, well, you're showing up. You know, there was a situation in our group chat last night where some guy, a guy that's been performing, that's been coming to me since he was 16 and he's 36 now, on and off. And you might know who I'm talking about. And I love the guy to death, but it's like, dude, you've been milling around the business for 20 years and you haven't, and you, in the last year and a half to 2 years I've been using you, you might have made one training session. What the fuck is wrong with you? And then I get so many guys that go, hey man, Valentine's Day weekend, I'm out of town with my girl. She it was a big weekend for us, or I got a birthday with my girl. And I'm like, what about your career? Now, this would be a different story, and people get mad, but this would be a different story if those people were like in shape and really far along for how long they've been doing it. I could be like, yeah, go do your birthday with your girl. Go do Valentine's Day. You know what I mean? Anniversaries, whatever. But is this really what you want to do? Because it's not. You know, I always say it about arsonists. This guy, even if he doesn't have gas money, you know what I mean? He finds a way. Even if it's to ask me, hey, man, no one's coming this weekend. I got all this stuff going on in the family. Well, we'll help each other out because he wants it, and he'll come here. He'll do a concert on a Saturday, get drunk, and be hungover the next day. And guess who's here at training, still covered in sweat, doing his job? Like, probably sucked for him because he was hungover, right? But he didn't show it. He showed up and he showed out and he put in a day. And then he went home, didn't sit in the corner going, I'm here, but I'm hungover. No, he put in the work. And that's what it takes. You want to get booked at those shows on WrestleMania? I feel sorry for everybody because the ticket sales are so low right now. So within a 50-mile radius of the Allegiant Stadium or whatever, they've actually made you can't have a WrestleMania showing right now at the bars or something. WWE shut that shit down. Las Vegas has shut that shit down because they're paying WWE to be there. It's Las Vegas. They're going around going, hey, can't do these showings, man. We got to get everybody to the venue because they're only halfway where they need to be. 60,000 both nights. We're only at 30, 35,000. And then what do you think that does? Not just for the viewing parties, but what do you think that does for all these kids that are traveling to Las Vegas to try to do shows that weekend? It's maybe it's don't do the fucking show, right? We don't even want them doing shows out here because we want those people buying those tickets. So,
right. Well, it's a reminder to, coaching basketball, and it was last, around Christmas time last year. And I remember talking about it on the podcast. It's like, what is important to you? We had guys that were like, oh, hey coach, sorry, I can't make it to practice. We weren't able to have open presents on Christmas Day. So we're going to open them at 10 o'clock on this day. It's like, hey, we're having practice from 9 to 11. Like, you can't open presents at 11:30 after you get home from practice, or like, it's the priorities, right? You're talking about, like, you want to get somewhere in the pro wrestling business, but you've got other things you'd rather be doing. Like, you can spend, celebrate your Valentine's Day on Saturday, but make sure you're here. Right, you got to be here Sunday morning for training. Whatever it is, my friend's birthday or whatever. It's like, well, can you guys go out after training? Can you guys go out on a different day that we don't train? What is the priorities? Or do you want to be a pro wrestler? Do you not want to be a pro wrestler?
They don't.
Right. So it's like, I just feel like, and there's been times I remember distinctly the transition with one of my daughters, and they were high level competitive swimmers, and I remember the transition from any excuse to miss practice, and then when she got really serious about it, it was any reason to be able to get to practice. It was like, hey, we're going out of town on a family trip, and it's like, well, can I stay with such and such at their house because we've got 2 big days of practice coming up for swim, and I need to be there. And it's like, that's when when there's been the switch that goes off, and you go, well, you know what? I think I'm really good at this, or I want to be really good at this. So instead of finding any reason to miss practice, you're finding every reason to be there and get better and learn and progress and things like that. So, I think you also see that with wrestling students. You're going to see that transition from excuses why I can't make it to training to reasons that I can't miss training. So, and those are the things that you're hoping to see, right? You want to see those.
Who's still around after all these years? Here we are doing a podcast. You know what I mean? I know who's around. I know who wants to do it. I know who is it's hobby and they want to come back. It's hilarious to me, man. I asked someone yesterday. I said, "Do you think the guy he was kind of teasing?" I said, "Do you think that you are fundamentally better than this guy who for the last 3 years has been showing up twice a week?" And it's a simple answer, right? It's either 3 letters that make a complete sentence or 2 letters that make a complete sentence. There's no gray area. Are you better? Do you think you're better than this guy? Fundamentally, it's either yes or no. And this person was like, well, I don't think that at all, but I'm over here and I'm trying to find a day that I can make it in to train after all these fucking years of trying. That's what I'm talking about, coach. And I'm like, first off, don't call me coach because I ain't fucking coaching you. You know what I mean? Second off, are you insulting my fucking intelligence now? Like, I know what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to find a day for yourself around your own fucking schedule. I get what you're saying. You're making fun of this guy who works hard because he's older. But he shows up and works hard. I'm asking you a question. And as a man with kids, if I'm asking you, I'm going like this. 2 + 2 = what? And you're going, oh, well, I know the answer, but there's addition, subtraction. Let's get into some division. I know school started out with 60 Saxon 65 and 76, and then we went up to algebra half. And when I'm thinking about the and it's like, dude, just say 4. Just say 4. And that's the fucking problem with the wrestlers nowadays and anywhere in life. It's like, hey, dude, do you want this? Yes or no? And they go, oh man, my girlfriend, my dog, I got the runs, I'm puking, my car, this holiday, it's someone's birthday, it's my girlfriend's dad's birthday, I jerked off 3 times and my dick. Would you need your dick to get hard to come to wrestling class? I hope your dick's not hard at wrestling class. They got every excuse in the book why they can't make it to train. And then yet they go, hey, coach, is there a spot available for me? I noticed I wasn't on the last show. Am I going to be on this card? And it's like, yeah, you're going to be on this card because at the end of the night, we got to break this ring down. We got to mop it. We got to take the sanitary wipes and wipe the ropes and the turnbuckles because someone else is coming here to train on a Monday. Yeah. Oh, guess what? You got your license? I'm going to have you drive the ring trailer because I'm tired of doing it. It's like, that's what your job is. That's what you're going to fucking do. But because you ain't showing up. That whole thing I did with MILF Hunter about the 20% of the merchandising and all that. And I couldn't even get him to do all that because he wasn't there. I did the best I could with that story. And the reason I'm doing that, and I'm just being honest, and this is what pisses me off, I'm glad this got brought up, is as promoters, we're paying for the venue, the insurance, the food for concession, the posters, the tickets, the flyers, distributing, getting it out there. And people are going, you need to help the promoter more. No, that's the promoter's job. In reality, we chose to run this as a business, right, Paul?
Yep.
You made the choice, right? So if people are willing to help you and pay their dues, great. If they're willing to sell tickets, great. But your job, my job as a promoter, is we're the fucking promoter, right? So we find the way to promote. We put in the fucking work. I just spent 5 hours in Chico by myself. Had a blast by myself. But that's my job. I went and did it. I went and picked up more stuff. I went and paid for it because that's our job. So as the promoter, if you're coming to sell your merchandise, right, we are actually doing you the biggest fucking favor in the world by not charging you $50 for that fucking rental table to set your stuff up on and sell it. We are doing you the biggest favor in the world by not charging you 20% of your merchandise that should be sent to the government and taxed at the end of the year, and you're allowed to not be charged 20% or $50 for a table. We're letting you, on the back of our hard work, not only are we letting you use that fucking table for free, but we're letting you keep all your money, and we're still going to pay you for the work, probably lack of work, that you're going to do on our show. You think that because you have merchandise made that you can put it over on that? I'm already paying you. So you think that you can just go set that thing up for free at my show on the back of all this money I've paid? What fucking type of sense of entitlement is that shit? It's like, no. You got to love the guys. You got to love Illumide going, hey, is it cool if I set up my table over here? Yeah, it is. But the reality of it is, we should be charging you. You want to sell your merch? Cool. I'm glad you bought merchandise. But I literally paid $1,200 for this building. I put in all this gas and all these 3 weeks of work and all these flyers and all this work so that you can set up your merch table to make you some money. And I hear Ugly talk about it all the time. It's like, wrestlers, I heard Ollie, I wish I would have had my merch game on. I wish I would have had my merch game on. Well, be appreciative of the fact that you have that table. They're not. And this one in particular person I'm talking about is hey buddy, $100, right? Maybe you make $100. And I'm going to be honest. Okay. Can I be honest, Paul?
You can be honest.
And I want you to be honest with me. And people may not like this, and that's okay. But if I need your 50, and don't get me wrong, it's awesome that I pay you and you pay me, and that's the way we do it. But man, I have a blast when I come down for you and you give me that money, or we go to Winnemucca, right? And I'm able to, go gamble a little bit. I'm able to buy my dinner. I'm able to give Bad News, $20 in gas or $30 in gas. And sometimes I come home and I got an extra 20 in my pocket. But that money you're giving me, none of it is paying for my rent. It's not going towards any electric. It's not going towards my phone bill. It's not going towards any of that. It's appreciated because then it don't have to come out of my own pocket. But the reality is, if you told me, hey man, we really hit hard tonight and I don't have the money, we didn't make any money, I'd be like, don't even sweat it. Or if there was something that you needed on your show and we were talking about it, I'd be like, hey, don't even pay me tonight. Make sure you put that towards some new ropes or what you really need. Because if I need your $50, if I need your $100, if I need to ask for an extra $20, then I should not be out there on that road fucking wrestling. I need to reevaluate my fucking life. Because if I'm a grown ass adult and I go, oh man, I need $50. And you go, for what? Well, I need it. What do you need it for? Dinner tonight. I'll buy you dinner, but why the fuck did you even come to this show if you don't have, maybe wrestling's not for you, man. 5 minutes remaining in this podcast. Now, you be honest with me on that topic, because I want you to close out on the table, booth space over there, which I don't mind giving people. And I want you to close out on $50 is going to make or break my my water or my PG&E bill. Go.
Right. Well, no, I think I 100% agree with you as far as the, I don't think people understand the concept of, hey, I'm the promoter, I am renting the venue, I'm paying the insurance, I'm doing all the stuff for promoting all that stuff. They don't understand that. They don't understand, like, hey, this is an investment in my business. And if I wasn't doing this business, you wouldn't have the opportunity to set up a table and sell your merchandise and things like that. And it goes the same, like when we've got the different vendors, like if we've got a taco truck or the jerky guy or all these things, it's like, you're asking them for money and they're like for what? It's like, well, because if I didn't have this venue rented and I didn't have this event going on, you wouldn't have access to sell, your product to these hundreds of people. It's like there's no thought about that. And it's, for me, it's like a lot of times you're talking to, especially when it's local guys, it's like, hey, I am giving you the opportunity to set up your merchandise at a table, at a building that I'm paying for, so you can make money, and I think it's such this foreign concept. And I remember hearing about this, like, back in the day, it's like, can you believe this promoter is asking me to give him a percentage of what I'm selling of my stuff? And it's like, yeah, I can't imagine that he's asking you for a percentage, because you wouldn't have the opportunity to sell your stuff if the promoter hadn't rented the venue and hadn't, paid for everything up front to give you the opportunity to sell your merchandise to hundreds of people. It's like, your job is to go in the ring and get yourself over enough where people go, man, you know what I'd really like is I'd like a souvenir from that guy that I enjoyed being entertained by. So, I think that is an awesome point that I don't think probably these guys have no idea. They don't think about that stuff from the promoter's perspective, because they've never ran an event on their own, right? They've never come out of their own pocket to start a promotion, or, they have no idea what it takes money-wise, effort-wise, all this stuff to run a show. So they definitely take that for granted. And then, you come down to the payout. There was the guy Drake Younger that was in our scene for a couple years, that I just remember him talking about, you're not getting paid for performing in front of this audience, right? Because we love pro wrestling, so we don't need to get paid to do what we love. What we're getting paid for is the time away from our family, things like that. So I just remember that putting things in perspective for me. It's like, so you have a family, you're getting paid to take time away from them. You talk about it's nice to be able to put gas in the tank and things like that. And I've heard Ugly talk about you should get paid what it's going to cost to cover your travel to the show, within reason. Don't think someone's going to be like, oh, hey, you're coming from 25 hours away and I'm going to pay you to travel that distance. Like, you are coming to the show because you want to be there. You want to get exposure. You want to work with people that you've never worked with. You want to get better. That's the whole goal. So don't expect, oh, well, it's going to cost me $500 to get there, so you need to pay me that, because on the promoter's end, it's like, how do I get that money back? How do I make use of that? So there's my 2 cents.
And it's a good 2 cents. Uh-oh. Hey, this Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, February 21st, last man standing. Man, we've pre-sales knocking right now, man. This is the last poster I got. I saved this one for myself, and I saved this one just to hold it right here and for a rainy day. Everything's up, man. I'm on point with promotion. Oroville Convention Center, it's gonna be huge. On top of that, the next weekend we are in Boomtown, which I'm really excited. There, you give it to me. Boom! The showdown of Boomtown. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that 6-man. I'm excited about Manny Roa and Ugly, man. I'm excited about that one because I know that one's going to tell a really good story. I'm excited to see Maple Gramps and Beatrice Domino because, I mean, these are 2 hard-hitting, imposing women that are finally facing each other. And there's just so much going on. Hit that subscribe button. I wasn't happy with the amount of views on the last one, but hey, it is what it is. We're going to cut this thing down and start getting more views. If you're watching, thank you. And if you've hit that subscribe button, thank you. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, next time you come to my show, I'm going to make you open your phone before I pay you. Yeah. If you're listening, I'm going to make you open your phone before I hand you your envelope and go to the Going Over podcast on YouTube. And if I don't see a follow button on there, then I'm going to kick you in the dick. I'm going to grab your dick and twist it. For Zack Primetime Reeb and the Wrecking Ball Paul Isadora, we're about to – this ain't titty twisting. This is testicle twisting that we're about to be. Holy Testicle Tuesday. You're going to be hearing this tomorrow. And, guys, we got so much wrestling action coming up. I'm heading to training. I'm going to see the Big Ugly today. I just seen the Wrecking Ball today over here. And guess what, guys? At the end of the day, when you're over there selling your merchandise at the table, we're going over.